Hello everyone, happy December and welcome to our December daily storytelling. What a year it has been. I'm so excited to be with you today and share with you the process of setting up this page. I felt like this page had to be used at the beginning of the album because of the sentiment. An early start to Christmas is the secret to a happier season or a longer season of happiness. And I decided to use it for this story, which tells our adventure of doing Santa photo shoots at the start of November or the end of October. Now, I usually book it in quite early because I want to be able to tell these stories as early as possible. I love doing foundation pages early, usually. And so I would book early, but also because we love sending greeting cards to our family, and we do have family around the world. So it's important for me to get an early start where this is concerned so that I can, get the greeting cards organized and post them out and have them arrive on time for December. So I kick things off with this layout, adding in jewel dots, sequins. They all have adhesive backings, and this takes me some time just to ensure that the colors are scattered to my liking, and I was working through whether I wanted green or just red hues. I needed to find these sequins which were in my sequin jewel box, but somehow I just missed them. But this one is just a nice jewel red, and I also used some from Prima with gold speckles in them. Those are the ones to your left right now, and so I'm just playing around with those. I have these as well, and I use the same chipboard pieces that Ali used when she did this page up. They are from the 2025, so this year's December daily collection. And at first I didn't think I'd use them, and when I saw them I'm like, yes, I am just gonna use them. I feel like this season is a season to sort of minimize decision fatigue and try our best, or try my best to not try to recreate the wheel, but just, tell my stories, keep it pretty, keep it lovely, but try not to get into my head too much around the design of the pages. And so I look forward to just having fun. That is my main goal for December and December daily, just have fun. And so many things happened this year that could have thrown us, but we made it to December and we are going to enjoy the season, all that comes, enjoy documenting, and just, December will be what it needs to be, and we will bring all the cheer. So I'm popping in some more of these sequins and jewel dots, and what exactly are they called? But then once I've done that, I can continue along with this layout. Alright, so this is what it looks like coming together. I decided to leave, just a lot of breathing room, not fill it up too much, and I stick with red and gold hues to bring it all together. So I love how that came out. And then I am working on the other side of the page. So I have this photo of Santa, which I love, and I am going to add some interactive hidden journaling here on the mantelpiece behind me as the spot for the journaling to go in. And so I adore how this one came out. So I was pleasantly and absolutely and utterly surprised at how this came together, because I spent probably a few weeks trying to figure out what I wanted to do with this photo, because I love the photo, and as you can see, it's full. There really isn't space for much embellishment or much else, and so I thought whether to just leave it as is and have this other side of the page be the focal point for the journaling. But the more I sat with the layout, the more I decided to just add it in tucked in here. So this is about 4 inches wide, and I used a 4x6 photo paper to print the journaling, and I didn't need to cut or trim it down at all, so that was perfect. And so I just need to cut this a little bigger, not much. And so that's probably the juiciest part of creating layouts like these, especially if you don't want to have to spoil the photo paper or reprint it. So I think it's big enough now to tuck this piece of journaling in, and I just slightly maneuver it because I don't want it too big of a space so that it kind of just falls through. But what I do is I end up creating an element that stops it from falling through. So that's quite exciting as well. And it was unintentional. So this process is quite exciting to me. And so I have this piece of this flimsy acetate that I love using. It's A4 and I buy it all the time. I always have packs and packs of it because it's so cheap. I will link all the products I use down below for you in case you're interested in any of these. And so I cut this down to about 4 inches wide and 2 inches high. The size that I need is 1.5 inches. So 1.5 inches from where I cut the photo to where I want the top of the acetate to land. I have this design so that it looks like it's tucked into the wreath and the fireplace. It looks like part of the mantelpiece when it's finished. And so that's what I'm keeping in mind as I create this element for the layout. So I'm using some red line tape here. I'm putting it at the base of this acetate and again on the top of the journaling, so that there isn't much of a flap per se, so that it's smooth when it's going in and out of the element that's hiding the journaling. I rest that on as straight as I can, and I think I did pretty well, all things considered. And I'm just gonna there's a little bit of an edge there, but it's so little it doesn't even come off when I try to trim it off. So I just end up leaving it because it really isn't visible, isn't a thing, doesn't need to be a thing. So I'm just going to now move on to embellishing this part of the layout. So I'm thinking ribbon. I could use some of this vellum ribbon, which is trimmed from last year, and then I decided to kind of play with my trim. So I didn't quite like the green against the green of Santa's top, so I decided to look through my ribbon stash and find some things. But in the meantime, I also pull out a ton of washi tape, all of my green washi tape, and I am playing with this wood die cut piece that says 25. I am going to try my utmost best to use up all the pieces that say 2025. So we'll see how we go with that. So just popping that there to get an idea. So you see the tone of this kind of blends in with the tones of the photo, which is what I want for this. I want it to look a bit seamless, even though like I can see you but I can't kind of vibe. And so I'm simply putting tacky glue on this, and I am gluing it to the part of the acetate that is right above there. So I've popped the journaling behind, and so this is gluing onto the acetate because this is where I want it to fall on top of the footer. But it is adhered to the acetate. I know it's quite, like, you can see it now, it's quite tricky to see because of, you know, that I'm using acetate for this part of it. And so yeah, I want to add like a little ribbon there, so it looks like it's the base of the wreath, and then add that number 1, so it kind of looks like the center of the wreath or the clock. When I'm finished with it, it does fall kind of like to the center of the wreath. So excited for where it all, you know, how it all turned out in the end. Looking at some stars, thinking about what I could add on this chipboard number 1 to kind of, you know, make it pop a little more. So I'm playing around with some of my star adhesives, as well as, you know, I have some tiny ones from local craft stores, and then I pull out the smallest ones. They're kind of like shoved into a corner there, but they came out quite easily, and so I'm just gonna pop these down in a kind of scattered manner to see if I like where they fall. I'm thinking 3 stars would be lovely, and then number 1, I also consider using some of my Stickles gel, as well as the sequins. I considered texture paste as well, in gold. So a few options for this depending on what you'd like it to look like and where you'd like it to go. But I just decided to keep it simple with 3 because there is quite a lot happening in this photo. So just adding that on top of the 2025, and also just going to use some tacky glue for the confetti sequins, star, I don't know. And quite like, you know, just some understated pieces. You know, a lot of times, especially with December daily, I think I love to add a lot, but I also love minimalist pages, and sometimes mentally or creatively staggering between both sides, like, you know, the entire equilibrium of, you know, how far I should go with this layout, or how much do I need, like, and I think it all boils down to how much energy do I have tonight for this layout, because they're all beautiful and they're all opportunities to get our stories told, which is the most important part of it all. And I also entirely need the creative process in my life and to be able to think creatively, and so it fills my cup up, and I'm always having to return to that, like, is this filling my cup right now, or is this, you know, kind of going over the edge a little bit? So just kind of keeping in mind during this season that not every day we come to our desks with the same energy levels, and just enjoying the process, no matter what happens. You know, sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe I should go to sleep, and then I'm like, no. Like, when I get to bed, I'm like, no, let me just create something quickly, and then I'll go to bed, and it always helps me to feel so great. So I love that. I'm a scrapbooker, and the Ali Edwards community, I love being a part of it, and the fact that, you know, I just feel at home in this community, and so I'm just grateful to everybody here who has, you know, everybody who's involved in making this community great. Thank you. So I've added in my ribbon. I'm contemplating washi, like a thin piece of washi for this piece. The 2025, because it's glued on the top, things can fit under it, or can tuck under it. So that's something to keep in mind as well as I work through this. But I love how this looks as is. So like I was just talking about, I love how this looks as is. It's absolutely fine without trim. It would tuck in completely and perfectly well. There's nothing structurally inaccurate about this. It's perfect just the way it is. But I felt like I wanted to add just a touch of ribbon, a touch of razzle dazzle to this piece, and I think it also helps to highlight where the pullout starts, because the 25 is the way it is. It sits in there. It could probably just pass for an embellishment that's stuck down. So I guess another thing that may have been nice too is a tab. I love the stamp that says pull here, which was one of the paisley pressed stamps for December Daily a couple of years ago. Would be nice too. So whatever, I don't usually have to add things like that, but if that's something that you love and would love to add, then I think it will be great. So as per usual, I am playing with a number of different options. They all look perfectly great. They're all perfectly fine in this situation. That green looked lovely. This deep red. I am really feeling deep reds this season. And I'm thinking that in the future I might be able to add deep red to my decor, which would be quite nice. Loving this ginghamish type as well. I have like about 3 or 4 shades of green and a couple different sizes in this. For some reason, awkward, I don't know why, but I do and I love them. But this one stood out to me. There is gold. It's a metallic ribbon with red, gold, and it may be black or it may be a very deep green. It is a very deep green, a very, very deep green, but it is green. And so I felt like this is the one. This is the one. It's always exciting when I get that feeling like this is it. Stop searching. We're not gonna look anymore. This is it. So I am popping in this one under, and I'm trying to figure out how to tuck it under. It's the first thing. In retrospect, I would have probably what would I have done? Oh, I know what I would have done. I would have popped the adhesive down first where it needs to be, like this, but then I would not have pulled the red part of the adhesive off until after I tucked the ribbon down. So just one of those tips. It is actually one of my favorite techniques to use for double-sided tape, and I have not done it in quite some time. I think I've just been living life on the edge with this when adding this down, and it's luckily has worked out so far. But yes, so I would have just kind of pulled the edge off after, and then kind of add, yeah. So but now I have the beautiful task of kind of lifting up the 25 and trying to tuck it in without, and then ensuring that it doesn't stick down until it's straight, which it actually wasn't too bad at all. So just pushing that in there and getting that to adhere down first, and then remembering that because the acetate is on top, that it does the 25 bends over quite nicely, and then once that's in, I'm just cutting off the excess and popping it over to the other side where there is just a bit of overage on the double-sided tape. And because I don't want it to pull up or shred or anything like that, I just cut off the excess, and I may glue it down a little bit more, but what happens is because it's now thicker than the slit, because I initially wanted the ribbon to go down into the slit because it's a bit thicker, and I didn't feel like cutting the slit any wider because I love that it's just within the width of this mantelpiece fireplace. So I could have just left it like this. I could have tucked it down, which you will see me do. It fits. So this is what it looks like in the end, and I adore it so much. But I still want to see. I want to see what it looks like as I originally intended it to look, which would have been like this. But then the 25 will be above the fireplace and the ribbon will be below the slit. So this would be what it looks like deep down inside. You know, it is seamless like this, and I quite like it. But I also feel like I want to see my ribbon that I chose, the one. So this is what it looks like. It could go either way. I did have to turn it around and kind of tuck that under, which again, if I do, you know, when I stick the back of that page down, it would be probably almost impossible to do that. I would have to kind of bend the page a bit to get it out. So I feel like it is, in fact, better to leave it like this. And this is my layout, guys. This is how it all turned out. This is my story number 1 for December daily 2025. We made it to December. We're gonna have a great time, and I'm so excited for it all. I am still not sure about these flags on the base. I've thought about adding them to the corner with a star, like my previous joy page in the other video. Also kind of like, you know, getting similar elements through the album. But then I thought it made me great in the middle if I just kind of cut the left hand side off as well. But still deciding, but that's something that I can always add in later on. So thank you for being here, and see you in the next video. Bye.